The diner was unusually quiet that cold evening, just the hum of the coffee machine and the clinking of silverware. The smell of bacon and fries hung thick in the air, mixing with the sound of rain pattering against the windows. People were tired, minding their own business, until the door creaked open. A woman stepped in, soaked from the rain. Her hair stuck to her face, and her thin coat clung to her shivering frame. She looked like she hadn't eaten properly in days. The waitress, Martha, gave her a sympathetic look as she approached the counter. "Evenin', hon, what can I get you?" The woman hesitated. Just a cup of coffee. Black. Please." Her voice trembled, almost a whisper. Martha nodded and poured her a steaming cup. The woman clutched it with both hands, trying to warm herself. A few minutes later, she glanced at the half-eaten plates around the diner. Her lips quivered before she finally spoke again, softly. "Excuse me," she said, her eyes darting nervously toward Martha. "Would it be okay if I could maybe have some leftovers for my daughter? She hasn't eaten since yesterday." The entire diner seemed to freeze. Forks paused midair. A man in a business suit exchanged glances with his wife. A group of teenagers at a booth snickered quietly. And at the back corner, a large man wearing a leather jacket, covered in biker patches, looked up from his plate. His name was Cole Dawson, leader of a local motorcycle club called the Iron Saints. He was a big man with a beard and tattoos, the kind people usually avoided. Martha's face softened, but before she could respond, the diner owner, a stocky man named Rick, walked out from the kitchen. "No handouts," Rick said firmly, wiping his hands on a towel. "This ain't a charity. You want food, you pay for it." The woman's face turned red. "Please," she murmured. "Just something small. I'll work for it. I just don't have enough money tonight." Rick crossed his arms. "Then come back when you do." She nodded, eyes filling with tears, and turned toward the door. She reached for her worn-out purse, pulling out a few crumpled bills and coins. "How much for another coffee? I can bring my daughter inside for warmth at least." Rick didn't answer. He just shrugged and walked back into the kitchen. The silence in the diner was suffocating. No one spoke. No one moved. Until a chair scraped loudly against the floor. Cole stood up, his heavy boots thudding as he walked toward the woman. The sound alone made people tense. Everyone knew better than to mess with a biker, especially one like him. Cole looked at her for a moment, then turned to Martha. "Bring her 2 full plates," he said in a low voice. "Hot meals. One for her kid. And add dessert." Martha's eyes widened. "Cole, that's—" "I'll pay," he said firmly, pulling a thick wallet from his jacket. He dropped a wad of cash on the counter, enough to cover every order in the diner that night. Feed everyone. No one leaves hungry. The rain poured down in sheets that evening, hammering against the glass windows of the old roadside diner. Inside, the warm yellow lights glowed softly against the dark storm outside. The chatter was low, forks scraped against plates, and the jukebox hummed an old country tune. It was one of those quiet nights when nothing seemed out of place, until the door creaked open. A woman stepped in, clutching a worn-out purse to her chest. Her clothes were soaked, her shoes muddy. Her hair clung to her face, and her eyes darted around nervously, as if she didn't belong there. She hesitated by the door, dripping water onto the floor before slowly making her way to the counter. "Evenin', ma'am," said Martha, the waitress who had been working there for years. "You look cold. Can I get you a coffee?" The woman nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, please. Just one coffee." Martha poured her a steaming cup, watching as the woman cupped it tightly, trying to warm her trembling hands. After a long silence, the woman finally spoke, her voice quivering. Would it be all right if I could have some leftovers for my daughter?" The words hung heavy in the air. The sound of rain and the clinking of dishes seemed to fade. Everyone in the diner went still. At a corner booth, a man in a leather jacket, broad-shouldered, bearded, tattoos peeking out from his sleeves, looked up from his meal. He was a biker, the kind that made people move aside without a word. Martha blinked. "Leftovers." The woman nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. Anything that's going to be thrown away. I don't have enough money for a meal, but my little girl hasn't eaten all day. I thought maybe I could take something home for her. From the kitchen door, Rick, the owner, stepped out. He was a heavy-set man with a permanent scowl. We don't hand out food, he said bluntly. This is a business, not a soup kitchen. The woman's face flushed red. Please, sir. Just a small plate. I'll work for it if I have to. Rick crossed his arms. We're closing soon. I don't have time to babysit. The diner fell completely silent. Even the jukebox seemed to stop. The woman looked down, shame flooding her face, her hands trembling as she reached for her purse. I'm sorry for asking, she whispered. I just thought maybe. Then, a chair scraped loudly against the floor. The biker stood up. His boots were heavy, and every step he took echoed through the diner. The woman froze, afraid she might have upset him somehow. Everyone turned their heads as he walked slowly toward her. He stopped beside her, towering over her small frame. You said it's for your daughter, he asked in a low, rough voice. The woman nodded. She's waiting in the car. She's 6. She hasn't eaten since yesterday. The biker looked toward Rick, his expression hard. Bring her 2 plates. Hot ones. And a slice of pie for the kid. Rick frowned. Cole, you don't have to get involved. Cole turned his head slightly, his tone calm.